Hey, what's up, everyone? Hope you're doing good. This isn't one of those flashy updates where everything suddenly looks different or you're learning a whole new mechanic, but it's the kind of patch that quietly fixes the stuff that's been breaking immersion or just straight up causing frustration. If you've ever had moments where the game felt inconsistent or weirdly unfinished in spots, a lot of that is what this update is targeting. One really important fix here is progression. There was a bug that could actually block players from moving forward if subtitles were turned off, which is wild when you think about it. Imagine playing normally, turning subtitles off because you don't need them, and then suddenly the game just says, nope, you're stuck. That's been fixed now, and honestly, that alone is huge, because progression blockers are some of the worst issues any game can have. Nothing kills motivation faster than feeling like you can't move forward through no fault of your own. Another big thing that's been cleaned up is quick drop behavior. Before this update, players could place way more items than intended, which might sound fun at first, but it caused all kinds of weird issues. Objects overlapping, performance dips, and some pretty broken looking spots around the map. Now the placement limits are properly enforced again, which keeps things running smoother and stops the environment from turning into a chaotic mess that the engine clearly wasn't designed to handle. Visually, this patch does a lot of heavy lifting. Some players were experiencing major resolution drops, like the game suddenly looking super blurry for no good reason. On PS5 in particular, there was an issue where the resolution could get stuck. It got stuck at an extremely low setting and just refused to recover. That's now been addressed, which should make the game feel way more consistent visually. Nobody wants to feel like they're skating through a video from the early 2000s. Lighting and rendering also got attention. Other skaters in certain areas, especially in San Van, weren't always displaying correctly. Sometimes they'd look off, sometimes they'd just vanish, which is not great in a world that's supposed to feel alive. Along the same lines, there were cases where skaters or even traffic would disappear after opening Skatepedia, which totally broke the sense of flow when you jump back into skating. That's been fixed, and it should make the world feel more stable and populated again. Menus weren't safe from bugs either, and this update cleans up a lot there. Some boards weren't showing up properly in menus, item thumbnails didn't always match what they were supposed to represent, and certain visual effects tied to gestures were misaligned. These aren't game-breaking issues, but they chip away at polish, and seeing them cleaned up really helps the overall feel of the game. Audio got some much-needed love too. Missing sound effects from other skaters have been restored, which is a bigger deal than it sounds. Skating games rely heavily on audio feedback, and when that's missing, everything feels kind of hollow. On top of that, there were crackling and distortion issues during voice chat, which could get super annoying during sessions with friends. Those problems have been addressed, making communication smoother and way less irritating. The UI side of things also saw fixes, especially around accessibility. The accessibility menu now shows up properly on first launch, which is huge for players who rely on those options right away. There was also an issue with incorrect messaging when exporting videos, which didn't affect gameplay directly, but definitely caused confusion. That messaging is now accurate, so what you see actually matches what's happening. Performance-wise, this update takes aim at some under-the-hood problems. One example is the score multiplier clock getting out of sync due to server load. That kind of issue can make scoring feel inconsistent or unfair, especially when you're trying to nail a clean line. Fixing that brings things back in line and makes scoring feel reliable again. On top of that, there are general stability improvements that should reduce crashes and random hiccups across all platforms. Overall, this update feels like a confidence booster for the game. It's the developers going through a checklist of, yeah, that shouldn't be happening moments, and finally crossing them off. If you haven't played in a bit because things felt janky or unreliable, this patch quietly removes a lot of those excuses. The game won't suddenly feel brand new, but it should feel smoother, more consistent, and way less frustrating, which honestly goes a long way in a skating game where flow is everything. That's the kind of update that doesn't scream for attention, but earns appreciation the more time you spend with it. And if you're the type who notices when small issues pile up, you'll probably feel the difference almost immediately once you jump back in and start rolling around.